The rainbow mock rib cap is so easy to knit. It's perfect for beginners, the experienced, and for charity knitting. With just a flatbed, bulky, or mid-gauge knitting machine, you can whip these up in minutes using readily available worsted weight yarn. Delight the young children with a sequence of primary and secondary colors, or dive into the scrap basket, or both. I took special care to tuck tips and tricks inside this video to make multiple color changes super easy and finishing a snap. The mock rib and the rolled brim give this cap an easy, comfortable fit, and the companion pattern covers sizes from toddler to adult. So why wait? Follow the link in the description below to get your copy. Okay, so I have pulled out a total of 80 needles, 40 on each side of zero. Then I'm going to retract, starting on the right hand side, I'm going to retract every other needle to the out of work position. And that is so that I can do my cast on, which makes this so easy to do. But I always start with the second needle on the right hand side because my carriage is on the right and I want that needle to knit on the very first pass. Then when I bring these other ones into work position, this one will get included. My main tension is at 7 and 2 clicks. However, I'm going to bring that down to 6 and 2 clicks. I'm one full tension number lower than my main tension. I've threaded my first two colors up. My first color is green, and I'm in knit, so everything's going to knit even though they're in the hold position. And I'm going to just take one pass to the left. Now, a couple things I'm going to do right now. First is I'm going to hang my cast-on comb, and I'm going to hang 2 weights, one on each end. I don't need a lot of weight for this particular pattern, but I like to add a little bit just to keep it in place. Now, I'm going to bring up those needles that I took out of work, starting with the end one, which is number 40, which is empty right now. And I'm going to bring them all the way out to hold only to help them along as we go. Now I'm going to take one more pass to the right. Okay, everything knit just fine. I'm just checking. Now I'm going to knit 10 more rows in the green, which means my row counter will be done 12. So I just knit 12 rows. Now I'm going to click up my tension all the way to the full tension, which is 7 and 2 clicks. I'm going to cut my yarn too. Now I use a little method because I'm going to be going back to this color later. I'm going to unthread my machine and I'm going to put a clip on my color right there and drop it there. Because I'll be back to that in a minute. Now I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to put it in my feeder so I don't forget it. There's a couple other things I have to do though on this particular row. The first thing is that I need to pull up every 5th needle, starting with the very first one, number 40, on the right. That means 4 in work, 1 in hold. So I'm just bringing these up. And I'm doing it all the way across. Now that these are in hold, I'm going to take my transfer tool and transfer them 1 needle to the left. Now, this is convenient for me because I'm right-handed. However, if you are left-handed, you can start from the left if you want. You can even count them from the left. But whichever way you count them and whichever way you transfer them, do it consistently throughout the pattern. But what I do like to do is make sure that that needle goes all the way into the out of work position. I'm taking this and bringing all these needles up. The ones that I took and transferred and that are empty right now should all be out of work. And they are. Perfect. I'm on row counter 12. Now, on the end needles, I'm going to, since I have 2 stitches on that end one, I'm going to E-wrap the next 3. And the reason is I don't need this end for any purpose other than to weave in. So I'm just weaving it in as I go. So I have my yellow on this end, and I'm going to knit one row. Okay, just like I did the last time, I'm going to E-wrap the last 4 stitches because I don't want this end either. I'm not going to keep any ends if I can get rid of them. So then I'm going to knit 3 more rows because every one of my stripes is going to be 4 rows. So my yellow is now completed. Trim that. Now I have to leave enough so I can weave it in, but not enough to waste yarn. Now I'm going to thread up. My next color is on my right, and the second one is on my left. Even though it's clamped in here, sometimes the vibration of the machine will cause the yarn to hop up, and then it gets tangled up in the mast. I always put my clothespin back in place. Now I'm going to pull these 4 needles out and do a quick E-wrap on them. Put a clip on this, and there I am. Okay, thread up with orange and knit 4 rows. Once you hit the 40 rows, that's your signal that you have to start doing other things. Before we weave this end in, what I want to do is start the shaping. So the first thing I'm going to do over here, I'm going to take my tension down so it's main tension minus 1. Then I'm going to start on my bed, and see these groups of 4 stitches? I'm going to pull out the end one on the right side all the way down. Now, if you started on the left, you'd be doing it from the left side of the group of 4 stitches. And for each one that's out, I'm going to transfer that stitch to the adjacent needle and then pull it back out. Notice how it's all the way in to out of work. And I'm just going to go right down the row, all the way to the end. Okay, now I'm going to pull all the stitches that are still in work position all the way out. So the configuration is 2 out of work, 3 in work, 2 out of work, 3 in work. Now is when I will wrap these needles. But I needed to transfer them first. And now I'm ready to knit with my orange. Now I'm only going to knit 4 rows. And my tension was tighter, remember. But since I'm only going to do 4 rows, I'm going to try and wrap this on this end. This is about the last time I can wrap because I don't have enough stitches to bury that end otherwise. And even though the tension is tighter, it's easier because there's less stitches. And I'm done with orange for now. Now I'm going to go over to my red, thread up. I've cranked my tension down one more time to 2 below, 2 full numbers below my main tension. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the end needles of each of the 3 needle groups. Always from the right or from the left if you're working from the left. And then I'm going to transfer these over 1 full needle. When I pull up all the stitches that are still in work out to the hold position to help them along, you'll see that my configuration is 2 in work, 3 out of work. So I keep adding more to the out of work position. I've already turned my tension down, and on this one, even though it's only 2 stitches, I am going to wrap it, but it isn't going to do too much. I'm going to have to weave that end in, so I won't trim it off. And I'm on to my red. So now I'm going to knit 5 rows. At this point, I'm going to unthread my carriage, and I'm going to measure across the bed about 1 1/4 times and cut my yarn. I am going to take the crown off for the machine right onto this yarn. And I am right-handed, so I'm going to start over here. But I'm going to pull all these stitches, or all these needles that have stitches on them, out. That puts the stitch behind the latch. With my darning needle, I just pop off the stitches. Boom. And I can pull that through. That's why I need the extra slack. Now, if you pull down, these loops of the stitches become longer because there's plenty of slack on those bars. Now, before I get too much further, I need to take some of this stuff off. Take the weight off and cast on comb. Because as the stitches fall off, I'm going to have less and less supporting it. So I'm going to find my needle again. And proceed to pull down, open up those stitches, and just pop them off. You see how the shaping that I did is right there where it angles right in from one side. Now I can just pull up this end until the crown is closed. If you notice, all the ends are woven in on the inside, except for these last few, which it was too narrow here to weave them in all the way. We're going to take the end at the top and sew it around one more time, just to strengthen that join, the closure at the top. When you return to the edge, you want to make sure that you have it so it's coming out the edge, because we're going to turn this inside out. Now, I found the easiest way to sew the stripes is just with a back and forth running stitch. In other words, align these stripes right like that. Now that one I'm going to have to pull up a little bit because I have to weave that one in. And we're just going to go back and forth. And I know that sounds kind of weird because usually you do the mattress stitch or whatever. But let's turn it over. And you see, it gives it the same kind of groove that mimics the mock rib ridge that you get. And plus you can match the stripes perfectly this way. Even though this is in red, it doesn't really show on the seam on the outside. And that's why I can get away with speeding along stripes. So now that I'm at the end, I'm going to do a back stitch here. Check my stripes to make sure they're perfect, and they are. Isn't that nice how that matches? The green is done a little bit different because the green has the purl side on the outside. But before we do anything else, unroll the brim, and you see those big loops? You want to get rid of those. And all you have to do is pull the end of the yarn. Now, you don't want to pull it so tight that you can't get the hat on. I like to pull it a little bit tight, and then I back off it by pulling it again to stretch it back out. And you'll feel the yarn moving along that edge. Now, let's talk about how we're going to seam this so it doesn't show. But I'm going to give you a foolproof way to do it. You want to come down to the bottom edge of this one and bring the loop up to the purl side. Then you're going to go over to this side and you're going to pick up the purl loop right on the edge. And then come over here and pick up the purl loop right here. There. And stitch through. A whip stitch. So let's look at it again. We did this one, so now we're doing this one to this one. The next stitch. So it's one row to one row. Pick up that one, pick up this one. You see that? So you're actually picking up the one that's sort of the bump on the edge and the bump on the edge over here. Very simple. Now, what I like to do when I get to this point is I like to stitch through to the front. Okay? And then I roll the brim the way it naturally falls. You don't want to stitch into the edge stitch because that's unnatural for a rolled brim. It's about like that. And I'm going to stitch under this stitch right there just to tie it down. And I'll just do a couple stitches. All you need to do is tack it into place. That helps the brim roll up on itself perfectly. Then I just did one stitch, just one little tuck. Brought it to the inside, And I'm just going to weave it up the seam now. So now I'm going to just trim this end. I already wove this end in a little bit. That one's done too. And I'll weave these ends in, and that's completing the hat. Now, when this washes, these ends will settle in a little bit. They may disappear even. But then if you want, you can go back in and trim them, but it's not necessary. So here we have our rainbow cap. All finished, ready to go. But I like pom-poms, so I added one here. Either way, it's a cute little hat for kids. Easy, easy, easy. Thank you for watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy machine knitting!